Imagine standing in a room full of people where someone you trust looks you dead in the eye and tears down your dignity with a single sharp insult. Everyone turns to look at you. Your chest tightens, your blood begins to boil, and a wave of heat rushes to your face. In that split second, your entire being screams to fight back, to scream, to humiliate them just as they humiliated you. But what if the ultimate display of power in that moment isn't a devastating comeback, a violent outburst, or a bitter argument? What if the most destructive thing you could possibly do to their ego and the most healing thing you could do for your soul is to simply look at them, say absolutely nothing, and walk away? We live in a world that tells us that silence is weakness, that if you don't defend your honor loudly, you have lost. But ancient wisdom suggests something entirely different. It reveals that the man who can look at an insult, smile inwardly, and remain completely silent holds a level of power that no words can ever shatter. This is the story of how an emperor mastered the ultimate art of quiet defiance, and how you can use his ancient blueprint to become completely untouchable in a world that constantly tries to break you. To understand how a person achieves this level of supreme unshakability, we must look beyond the noise of our current era and journey back nearly 2,000 years into the dark, damp tents of a Roman military camp along the frozen Danube River. There, beneath the flickering light of an oil lamp, sits the most powerful man in the world, Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome. He is surrounded by betrayal. His most trusted general has rebelled against him. His subjects are whispering behind his back. The empire is plagued by disease, and everyday people are ungrateful, rude, and treacherous. Yet as he dips his quill into ink, he does not write decrees of execution or manifests of revenge. Instead, he writes to himself. He reminds himself that the people he will meet today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. And then he writes the phrase that changes everything. None of them can hurt me, for they cannot infect me with ugliness. Marcus Aurelius understood a profound psychological truth that modern science is only now beginning to validate. When someone attacks you, insults you, or attempts to diminish your worth, they are not actually reacting to who you are. They are projecting a civil war that is raging inside their own minds. Think of a colleague in a glass-walled conference room who suddenly sneers at your presentation, cutting you off in front of the entire executive team, mocking your ideas with a sarcastic smirk. The room falls dead silent. Every eye is on you, waiting for your response. In that agonizing silence, your brain enters a state of high alert. Your primal instincts perceive this social rejection as a literal threat to your survival. Your heart hammers against your ribs, and a voice inside your head begs you to strike back, to point out their flaws, to expose their incompetence. But if you look closely through the lens of Stoic wisdom, the illusion begins to shatter. Why did this person attack you? A truly content, fulfilled, and emotionally stable individual does not spend their days looking for ways to diminish others. People who are at peace with themselves do not go to war with those around them. This colleague's insult is actually a confession. It is a confession of their own deep-seated insecurity, their terror of being overlooked, their jealousy of your capabilities, or perhaps the heavy weight of a broken personal life that they do not know how to carry. When they throw an insult at you, they are desperately holding a hot coal, hoping to burn you with it, but they are the ones who are burning first. When you choose to react emotionally to that person, when you raise your voice, defend yourself frantically, or counterattack with venom, something tragic happens. You willingly step into their burning house. You accept their reality. By reacting, you are validating their insult. You are implicitly telling them, your opinion of me matters so much that it has the power to dictate my emotional state. You give away your crown. Marcus Aurelius looked at the chaotic political landscape of Rome, where senators backstabbed one another and citizens rioted over trivial matters, and he realized that reacting to small minds is a form of voluntary slavery. He wrote that to feel anger or grief at the actions of bad men is to turn yourself into a fugitive from nature. Let us trace this into the digital landscapes of our modern life, where disrespect has been industrialized. Consider the toxic corridors of social media. You post something you are proud of, a milestone in your career, a creative project, or a piece of personal philosophy. Within minutes, a stranger hides behind a blank profile picture and leaves a comment designed to mock your effort, call you a fraud, or minimize your achievement. The notification pops up on your phone screen, illuminating your face in the dark. Immediately, a shot of cortisol hits your system. Your fingers hover over the keyboard, drafting a brilliant, biting response that will put this internet troll in their place. You spend the next 20 minutes refining your reply, checking back every 2 minutes to see if they responded, your mood ruined, your evening hijacked. What just happened? A person you have never met, who lives thousands of miles away, who knows absolutely nothing of your sacrifices, your tears, or your journey, has successfully assumed complete ownership of your mind. They pulled a tiny psychological lever, and you danced exactly how they wanted you to. Marcus Aurelius would look at this modern tragedy with profound pity. He would remind us of a simple, beautiful metaphor. Imagine a pristine, crystal-clear mountain spring. If a man stands at the edge of this spring and begins to curse at it, yell at it, and throw mud into it, does the spring stop flowing? Does the water turn bitter? No. The mud settles to the bottom, the clear water keeps bubbling up, and the spring remains exactly what it is, pure, untainted, and indifferent to the madness of the passerby. You must be that spring. The mud thrown by others can only defile you if you churn up your own waters to mix with it. If you remain still, the mud simply sinks into irrelevance. This stillness is not an act of submission, it is the ultimate expression of internal dominance. When someone stands before you, weaponizing their words to get a reaction out of you, they are expecting one of two things. They expect you to run away in fear, or they expect you to fight back in anger. Both of these responses prove that they have successfully manipulated you. But when you look at them and offer nothing but an empty, echoing silence, you disrupt their entire reality. Silence is a mirror. When you refuse to absorb their toxicity, it bounces off your calm exterior and splashes straight back onto them. They are left standing alone with their own ugliness, forced to confront the vacuum of their own making. Think of a young entrepreneur standing in front of a panel of cynical investors. He has poured his life savings, his sleepless nights, and his entire soul into a new venture. One of the investors, wanting to show off his own intelligence, scoffs at the presentation, throws the business plan onto the table, and says, "This is completely unrealistic. You're entirely out of your depth and you're wasting our time." The room goes cold. The young man feels an overwhelming urge to argue, to list his qualifications, to get defensive, or to let his eyes fill with tears of humiliation. But imagine if instead of doing any of that, he takes a deep, slow breath through his nose. He lets the silence stretch out in the room. 5 seconds pass. 10 seconds pass. The investor who delivered the insult begins to shift slightly in his chair. The silence becomes heavy, uncomfortable, and suffocating. By not responding instantly, the entrepreneur has shifted the spotlight of awkwardness from himself back onto the aggressor. Finally, with absolute composure and a steady voice, he says, "Thank you for your perspective," and calmly moves to his next point, or neatly packs up his laptop and exits the room with his posture upright. Who won that exchange? The investor used words as a weapon, but the weapon hit nothing but empty air, leaving the attacker off balance and exposed as unprofessional, while the entrepreneur walked away with his dignity entirely intact, having demonstrated a level of emotional maturity that no money can buy.
Marcus Aurelius frequently observed that human beings are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. To act against one another, then, is contrary to nature. When someone treats you with disrespect, they are displaying an internal blindness. They do not know what is truly good or what is truly bad. They mistakenly believe that by crushing you, they can elevate themselves. When you realize that their behavior is born out of deep psychological ignorance, your anger naturally melts away and is replaced by a profound, detached compassion. You realize that you cannot be angry at a blind person for bumping into you in a dark room. Similarly, you cannot be angry at a spiritually or emotionally blind person for failing to recognize your value. Their insults are not a reflection of your value. They are a report card of their own internal chaos.
Let us carry this truth into the most painful arena of human existence, the breakdown of personal relationships and the sting of betrayal. Imagine a long-term relationship or a deep friendship that suddenly falls apart. The person who once claimed to love you begins to spread vicious rumors about you to common friends, twisting old secrets you shared in confidence, painting you as the villain of the story to justify their own bad behavior. You find out about this through a mutual friend, or you see the subtle passive-aggressive remarks aimed at you online. The betrayal feels like a physical blade between your shoulder blades. Your mind races with 1,000 different ways to vindicate yourself. You want to call every friend you have, show them the old text messages, prove your innocence, and tear down the reputation of the person who betrayed you. The urge to self-vindicate is one of the strongest cravings of the human ego. We want the world to know we are right, and we want our enemies to be exposed as wrong. But Marcus Aurelius offers a chillingly beautiful piece of advice for these exact moments. The best revenge is to not be like that. Let those words sink deep into your consciousness. The best revenge against someone who has betrayed you, lied about you, or disrespected you is to completely refuse to adopt their methods. If they lie, you speak only truth through your actions. If they gossip, you remain silent. If they are petty, you remain magnanimous. If you descend into the mud to fight them, if you start playing their game of rumors, counter-rumors, and public defense, you have allowed them to transform you into a replica of themselves. You have permitted their poison to alter your character. And that is the only true harm anyone can ever inflict upon you. External events, loss of money, loss of reputation, insults, physical pain cannot touch the core of who you are unless you allow them to corrupt your character. Your character, your inner sanctuary, what the Stoics called the ruling center, is entirely yours. It is an unassailable fortress. No king, no boss, no toxic ex-partner, and no internet mob can breach the walls of this fortress unless you open the gates from the inside and let them in. When you remain silent in the face of betrayal, when you refuse to engage in petty warfare, you keep the gates of your fortress firmly shut. You tell the world, you may take away my social standing, you may take away my comfort, you may take away my peace of mind for an hour, but you cannot make me a bad person. You cannot force me to surrender my virtue. Consider the profound strength it takes to execute this in everyday life. Picture an intense family gathering during the holidays. The extended family is gathered around a dinner table, the atmosphere thick with decades of old rivalries, unhealed wounds, and unspoken tensions. An older relative, lubricated by wine and driven by an old grudge, clears their throat and makes a loud passive-aggressive comment about your life choices, mocking your career transitions, questioning why you aren't married yet, or let us carry this truth into the most painful arena of human existence, the breakdown of personal relationships and the sting of betrayal. Imagine a long-term relationship or a deep friendship that suddenly falls apart. The person who once claimed to love you begins to spread vicious rumors about you to common friends, twisting old secrets you shared in confidence, painting you as the villain of the story to justify their own bad behavior. You find out about this through a mutual friend, or you see the subtle passive-aggressive remarks aimed at you online. The betrayal feels like a physical blade between your shoulder blades. Your mind races with 1,000 different ways to vindicate yourself. You want to call every friend you have, show them the old text messages, prove your innocence, and tear down the reputation of the person who betrayed you. The urge to self-vindicate is one of the strongest cravings of the human ego. We want the world to know we are right, and we want our enemies to be exposed as wrong. But Marcus Aurelius offers a chillingly beautiful piece of advice for these exact moments. The best revenge is to not be like that. Let those words sink deep into your consciousness. The best revenge against someone who has betrayed you, lied about you, or disrespected you is to completely refuse to adopt their methods. If they lie, you speak only truth through your actions. If they gossip, you remain silent. If they are petty, you remain magnanimous. If you descend into the mud to fight them, if you start playing their game of rumors, counter-rumors, and public defense, you have allowed them to transform you into a replica of themselves. You have permitted their poison to alter your character. And that is the only true harm anyone can ever inflict upon you. External events, loss of money, loss of reputation, insults, physical pain cannot touch the core of who you are unless you allow them to corrupt your character. Your character, your inner sanctuary, what the Stoics called the ruling center, is entirely yours. It is an unassailable fortress. No king, no boss, no toxic ex-partner, and no internet mob can breach the walls of this fortress unless you open the gates from the inside and let them in. When you remain silent in the face of betrayal, when you refuse to engage in petty warfare, you keep the gates of your fortress firmly shut. You tell the world, you may take away my social standing, you may take away my comfort, you may take away my peace of mind for an hour, but you cannot make me a bad person. You cannot force me to surrender my virtue. Consider the profound strength it takes to execute this in everyday life. Picture an intense family gathering during the holidays. The extended family is gathered around a dinner table, the atmosphere thick with decades of old rivalries, unhealed wounds, and unspoken tensions. An older relative, lubricated by wine and driven by an old grudge, clears their throat and makes a loud passive-aggressive comment about your life choices, mocking your career transitions, questioning why you aren't married yet, or criticizing how you raise your children. The table goes quiet. The aunts and uncles look down at their plates, pretending not to hear, but their ears are burning with anticipation. They are waiting for the explosion. They expect you to snap, to bring up old family drama, to ruin the dinner, and to prove that you are just as unstable as they always thought you were. Imagine the absolute shockwaves that ripple through that room if you simply don't take the bait. Imagine if you look at that relative with a calm, neutral expression, let their words hang in the air until the weight of their own rudeness becomes clear to everyone at the table, and then simply pick up your water glass, take a sip, and ask someone on the other side of the table about their upcoming vacation. You didn't fight, you didn't argue, you didn't cry. You simply acted as though the insult was nothing more than a passing breeze that had no power to move a mountain. In that moment, you have completely disarmed the aggressor. You have demonstrated a supreme level of social authority and emotional intelligence. The relative looks small, bitter, and isolated, while you stand as the adult in the room, unbothered and sovereign over your own internal state. This is the power of what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel. He believed that the mind must build a fortress within itself to which it can retreat at any moment to find perfect tranquility, even in the midst of a battlefield or a hostile crowd. This inner citadel is built brick by brick through the daily practice of self-mastery. Every time you receive a rude email from a client and choose to wait an hour before responding, allowing your initial flash of anger to evaporate before you respond, you are laying a brick in that citadel. Every time a driver cuts you off in traffic, honks violently, flips you off, and you choose to take a deep breath and wish them well on their chaotic journey, rather than chasing them down, you are laying another brick. Every time someone underestimates you, treats you as invisible, or scorns your ambitions, and you choose to let your silent work do the talking rather than boasting or arguing, your citadel grows taller and stronger. Why do we find it so difficult to remain silent? Why does our biology scream at us to react? It is because our egos are fragile creatures. The ego thrives on validation, praise, and the illusion of control. It wants to believe that it is central to the universe. When someone insults us, the ego perceives it as a mortal wound. It screams, "How dare they do this to me? Don't they know who I am?" But the Stoic response is to dissolve the ego entirely. Marcus Aurelius would constantly remind himself of the vast, terrifying scale of time and space to keep his ego small. He would look up at the stars at night and remind himself that the entire earth is just a tiny speck in an infinite void, and that Rome was just a small corner of that speck, and that his life was just a brief flash of lightning in the eternal expanse of time. When you adapt this cosmic perspective, the insults of ordinary people lose all their weight. What does the opinion of a bitter critic matter in the grand tapestry of existence? 100 years from now, both you and the person who insulted you will be nothing but dust and forgotten names. The argument you are having today, the slight you felt in the office yesterday, the hurtful comment on your phone, all of it will vanish into total oblivion. When you realize this, you stop treating every minor insult as a life or death crisis. You begin to see them for what they truly are: temporary, meaningless vibrations of air produced by temporary, fragile human beings who are stumbling through the dark just like everyone else. Let us explore another modern scenario that tests the limits of human endurance: the toxic workplace where gaslighting and credit stealing run rampant. Imagine you have spent 3 months working on a massive project that saved your company hundreds of thousands of dollars. During a major company-wide meeting, your manager stands up and presents the project as entirely their own achievement, taking all the credit while completely leaving your name off the slides. To make matters worse, when you try to speak up later to clarify a detail, they cut you off patronizingly, saying, "Thanks for the input, but let's leave the complex strategy to the leadership team." The hidden sting of undervaluing and having your hard work stolen can make you feel physically sick with anger. You feel a burning desire to walk into the HR department, file a massive complaint, cause a scene, or immediately quit in a blaze of glory. But let us see how an ancient emperor would guide you through this corporate minefield. Marcus Aurelius would tell you that your work, your dedication, and your virtue are rewards in themselves. A beautiful thing does not become more beautiful because someone praises it, nor does it become ugly because someone ignores it. Does an emerald lose its beauty if no one compliments its green color? Does gold become less valuable because someone calls it dirt? Your competence, your intelligence, and your value as a professional exist completely independent of your manager's validation. By remaining silent and calm in that meeting, you do not let them see that they have wounded you. You do not give them the satisfaction of seeing you flustered or defensive. Instead, you use that silence to strategize. You document everything quietly. You gather your data, your emails, and your proof of work without making an emotional scene. You quietly look for a new position at a company that actually aligns with your values, or you present your irrefutable data to higher-level executives with cold, clinical detachment devoid of any emotional whining. When you strip away the anger, your actions become incredibly precise, strategic, and lethal to your enemies. Anger makes you sloppy, silence makes you sharp. Silence is not just an absence of speech, it's a presence of profound awareness. When you are silent, you are listening, you are observing, you are gathering data about the people around you.
When a person is screaming at you, insulting you, or trying to provoke you, they are giving you a complete map of their vulnerabilities. They are showing you exactly what frightens them, what hurts them, and where their psychological boundaries lie. If you are busy shouting back, you miss all this valuable intelligence. But if you remain completely still and listen, you learn everything you need to know about them. You see their weaknesses clearly. You see that their anger is a shield hiding a terrified child. This deep understanding strips away any remaining desire to hurt them back. You don't want to destroy them. You simply see them for what they are, and you transcend their capacity to affect you. Think of the majestic peace of a deep ocean. On the surface, there may be a fierce storm raging, with howling winds and massive, violent waves crashing against each other. A shallow boat on the surface will be tossed around, broken apart, and overwhelmed by the chaos. But if you dive 50 feet below the surface, the water is completely still, quiet, and peaceful. The storm on the surface has absolutely no impact on the depths of the ocean. Most people live their lives entirely on the surface, matching every external storm with an internal storm of their own. When the world is loud, they become loud. When the world is angry, they become angry. They are fragile boats tossed about by the whims of their environment.
But the practice of Stoicism is the practice of becoming the depths of that ocean. No matter how loud the storm is on the surface, no matter how many insults are hurled at you, no matter how many betrayals you face, you have the ability to descend into the quiet depths of your own mind. You can look up at the waves crashing above you and realize that they cannot touch you down here. This internal peace is your birthright. It is a sanctuary that no one can take away from you unless you willingly choose to abandon it. Let us look at a heartbreaking scenario that happens all too often: the sting of romantic rejection and the silent dignity that must follow it. Imagine you are deeply in love with someone. You have built plans, shared dreams, and invested years of your life into them. One day, out of nowhere, or perhaps after a string of painful arguments, they look at you and tell you that they no longer love you, that you are not enough for them, and that they are leaving you for someone else. To add insult to injury, they point out your flaws, blaming you entirely for the failure of the relationship, cutting down your self-esteem and leaving you abandoned on the cold floor of a lonely apartment. The pain of romantic rejection triggers the exact same neurological pathways as intense physical torture. Your entire soul feels like it is being torn apart. Your instinct is to beg, to plead, to send long paragraphs of text messages at 3 in the morning, asking what you did wrong, promising to change, or lashing out with desperate insults of your own to hurt them back. You want to demand closure. You want them to see how much they have hurt you. But what does Marcus Aurelius teach us about this profound human agony? He reminds us that everything that happens to us is either endurable or it is not. If it is endurable, then endure it and stop complaining. If it is not endurable, it will destroy you, and your problems will be over anyway. Since you are still breathing, since your heart is still beating, this pain is endurable. When you choose the path of dignified silence after a rejection, you perform a profound act of self-love and self-preservation. When someone tells you they do not want you in their life, your response should be to immediately and quietly grant them their wish. No begging, no long explanations, no bitter arguments, no cyberstalking their new life. You don't demand closure from them because you realize that closure is not something other people give you. Closure is an internal decision you make when you accept reality exactly as it is. By remaining silent, by removing your presence, your energy, and your attention from their life entirely, you preserve your self-respect. You do not offer your tears as a trophy for their ego.
You accept the pain. You sit with it in the quiet sanctuary of your own room. You let it wash over you, and you use that raw, burning energy to rebuild your own life, your own body, your own mind, and your own career. Months later, when that person looks back at how you handled the breakup, they won't remember a desperate, broken individual begging for scraps of affection. They will remember an unshakable, mysterious tower of strength who accepted their departure with absolute, chilling dignity. And that realization will echo in their mind far longer than any angry text message ever could.
The philosophy of Marcus Aurelius is not a philosophy of emotional suppression. It is not about pretending you don't feel pain, anger, or grief. Stoicism is about the space between the stimulus and the response. When someone insults you, that is the stimulus. The immediate flash of anger you feel in your chest is a natural biological reaction. It is your animal nature kicking in. Stoicism doesn't ask you to eliminate that initial flash. What it asks you to do is to catch that anger before it transforms into action. It asks you to pause. It asks you to step back from your own emotions and observe them as an outside spectator. When you feel that surge of rage, say to yourself, "This is just an emotion. It is a temporary cloud passing across the sky of my mind. It is not me." If you can delay your reaction by even 10 seconds, the chemical surge of anger begins to dissipate. If you can delay it by a day, it disappears entirely. In that delay lies your freedom. In that delay lies your power. Silence is the ultimate tool for creating that delay. While the other person is waiting for you to speak, your silence is buying you the precious time you need to cool your mind, analyze the situation rationally, and choose the path of virtue over the path of impulse. Think of the historic figures, the legendary leaders, and the spiritual masters who changed the course of human history. When Jesus stood before Pontius Pilate, surrounded by an angry mob calling for his execution and facing a barrage of false accusations, what did he do? He remained silent. When Mahatma Gandhi faced the brutal, oppressive machinery of an empire, he did not counter with violence or explosive rhetoric. He countered with peaceful, unshakable silence and non-cooperation. When Nelson Mandela sat in a tiny prison cell on Robben Island for 27 years, disrespected, abused, and stripped of his freedom, he did not waste his energy screaming at his guards. He used that quiet time to master his own mind, to study his captors, and to prepare himself to lead a nation with magnanimity and peace. These figures understood that silence is not the absence of power. It is the concentration of power. It is power held in reserve, waiting for the perfect moment to manifest as strategic action. Let us bring this back down to the scale of our individual lives. Imagine you were walking down a crowded city street, minding your own business, when a random stranger who is clearly intoxicated or mentally unstable begins to scream profanities at you, mocking your appearance, trying to goad you into a physical fight. A crowd gathers, watching to see what you will do. Your primitive ego wants to defend its honor in front of the crowd. It tells you that if you walk away, you will look like a coward. But Marcus Aurelius would whisper in your ear, "Look at the source. Who is judging you? A broken, unstable stranger who doesn't even know who he is. Why would you value the opinion of someone whose judgment you wouldn't trust for a single second in any other area of life? If a toddler walks up to you and tells you that you are an ugly, stupid person, do you get angry? Do you challenge the toddler to a duel? Do you spend the rest of the night crying in bed because a 3-year-old insulted you? Of course not. You smile, you recognize their lack of development, and you move on with your day. Why should it be any different with an adult who lacks emotional development? An adult who throws tantrums, hurls insults, and seeks to destroy others is nothing more than a giant toddler with a larger vocabulary. Treat them as such. Do not dignify their madness with an emotional reaction. Walk away silently and let them play in their own sandbox of chaos. The true test of your character does not happen when things are going well. It doesn't happen when you are surrounded by people who love you, praise you, and validate your achievements. It is incredibly easy to be a good person, to be calm, and to be virtuous when your life is comfortable. The true test of your character happens in the dark. It happens when you are exhausted, stressed, underappreciated, and under attack. It happens when someone treats you unfairly, breaks a promise, or tries to humiliate you. That is the exact moment where your philosophy must step out of the pages of books and become a living, breathing reality. That is the moment where you prove whether you are a true master of your mind or just someone who likes to read quotes about it on the internet.
Marcus Aurelius looked at his own life as a wrestling match, not a dance. A dance is beautiful, graceful, and cooperative. A wrestling match is brutal, unpredictable, violent, and messy. You must be prepared for the sudden takedowns, the illegal moves, and the painful holds of life. When someone insults you, they are trying to throw you off balance. If you tense up, get angry, and fight back wildly, you make it incredibly easy for them to pin you to the ground. But if you remain flexible, centered, and calm, if you let their momentum carry them past you into empty space, they will trip over their own aggression and fall to the mat by themselves. Your silence is your center of gravity. It keeps you rooted to the earth while the storm rages around you. As we journey through this profound realization, let us consider the incredible mental freedom that comes when you completely surrender the desire to control what other people think of you. Imagine waking up in the morning and genuinely not caring whether people praise you or criticize you today. Imagine going into an interview, a date, a family dinner, or a business meeting with a mind that is completely immune to the opinions of others. You are no longer performing for their applause. You are no longer walking on eggshells to avoid their disapproval. You speak your truth quietly and clearly. You act with honor and virtue, and whatever they choose to say or think about it is entirely their business, not yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I am often amazed at how much we love ourselves more than others, yet we care more about their opinion than our own." Think about the profound irony of that truth. We spend our lives obsessing over our own comfort, our own success, and our own desires. Yet the moment a complete stranger passes a negative judgment on us, we throw away all our happiness, all our peace of mind, and all our self-worth just to appease them. We hand over the keys to our internal house to whoever happens to walk by and knock on the door. It is time to take your keys back. It is time to look into the mirror and realize that your opinion of yourself is the only opinion that matters. If you know that you acted with integrity, honesty, kindness, and strength today, then you have won the day. The criticism of the entire world cannot diminish that victory by a single millimeter. Let us feel the immense weight of this transformation. Think of a moment in your recent past where you allowed someone's disrespect to ruin your week. Remember the loop of angry thoughts playing over and over in your head, the imagined arguments you had with them while showering, the bitter words you wished you had said, the knot of tension in your stomach that kept you awake at 2 in the morning. Look at how much energy you wasted. Look at how much of your precious finite life you sacrificed on the altar of their bad behavior. Was it worth it? Did it change what happened? Did it make them a better person? Did it make you happier? No, it did nothing but poison your own well. Now imagine a different path. Imagine that exact same situation happening tomorrow. Someone insults you, minimizes your effort, or betrays your trust. But this time, instead of jumping into the ring to fight them, you stop. You take a long, deep breath. You look at them with absolute detached clarity. You see their insecurity, their pain, and their ignorance. You feel a wave of quiet pity for the fact that they have to live inside a mind that is so bitter and chaotic. And then you choose silence. You offer no words, no angry expressions, no passive-aggressive gestures. You simply close that mental chapter and return your attention to your own work, your own goals, and your own peace. Feel the incredible lightness in your chest as you make that choice. The knot in your stomach vanishes. Your mind remains clear, calm, and focused. Your energy stays safely contained within yourself, ready to be used for creative work, for loving your family, for building your business, and for improving your life. You have completely neutralized their weapon. They fired a shot at you, but you became thin air, and the bullet flew harmlessly past you into oblivion. You are free. You are powerful. You are completely untouchable. This is the ultimate victory that Marcus Aurelius discovered in the lonely, cold nights along the Roman frontier. He realized that the greatest emperor is not the one who conquers nations, commands vast legions, or rules over millions of subjects. The greatest emperor is the one who completely conquers his own mind. The external world can change like the wind. Empires fall, fortunes vanish, reputations fade, and bodies decay. But the person who has mastered the art of internal stillness remains a king or queen, regardless of their external circumstances. They are rich in their poverty, free in their imprisonment, and peaceful in the midst of war. As you step forward out of this narrative and back into the loud, chaotic, and often disrespectful arena of modern life, carry this ancient wisdom deep within your soul. Wear it like a suit of invisible armor. When you walk into your workplace, when you open your phone, when you interact with difficult family members, or when you face the unfair judgments of society, remember the emperor who sat in his military tent 2,000 years ago and chose silence over rage. The next time someone tries to provoke you, look at it not as an insult, but as a golden opportunity, a test sent by nature to see if your philosophy is real. Smile inwardly, take your breath, build your inner citadel, and let your silence speak volumes. For in that sacred, quiet space lies the birth of your true strength, your enduring dignity, and your absolute self-mastery. If this journey into the profound wisdom of Marcus Aurelius has resonated with your soul, if it has brought a sense of clarity, peace, and empowerment to your mind, please take a brief moment to support this work. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us to join a growing community of individuals dedicated to wisdom, resilience, and personal growth. Share this message with someone in your life who is currently fighting a silent battle against disrespect, toxicity, or betrayal, and needs to be reminded of their own inner power. And finally, leave a comment below sharing a specific moment in your life when you chose the path of silence over anger. Tell us how it felt, what you learned, and how it transformed your perspective. Your story might be the exact beacon of light that someone else needs to read today to find their own strength. Thank you for listening. Remain unshakable and master your mind.